The active hurricane season is a reminder that flooding can cause major mold issues. Images like this from Hurricane Ida are just the beginning of what happens when flood ravages cities and neighborhoods. Now, the problem is there is nowhere near the manpower available to start fixing flood damage, and that is when most mold starts to take over.
We've gotten over 100 calls just last night with people leaving urgent messages like, help, my basement is flooded, what do I do? So it's really heartbreaking what we're seeing going on up there. And of course, the infrastructure just isn't there. I mean, this happened overnight, really out of nowhere. No one was expecting to have this type of flooding. You know, because mold grows in 24 to 48 hours, likely what's going to happen is there's some people that are going to get service right away, but many others are probably going to be dealing with mold exposure after that.
And the health risks of living in mold?
You know, that starts with brain fog, cognitive disorders, neurological effects, different co-infections that can exist that also make mold really impactful to the health. I think this is going to be really heart-wrenching to see the experiences.
Welcome back to Bloom. Mold is impacting the homes and health of many. But good news, there are healthy home makeover steps that we can do to breathe safer. Joining us today is Michael Rubino, a mold expert and author. Welcome to Bloom, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
So, Michael, we see it growing on our cheese. More seriously, when there's water damage, it grows in our homes. But what exactly is mold?
So mold is an interesting topic because it's actually a blanket term used to describe over 100,000 species of fungus.
Okay, so how does mold impact our homes if it starts growing there?
It's part of our ecosystem, and what happens is mold reproduces by methods of spores. These spores are all around us. Now, as you have water intrusion, these spores, just like weeds, they produce seeds, so those seeds get into the soil, water comes, they become more weeds. Mold, that's how it reproduces, exactly like that. It starts to find a source of moisture or water, and it starts to bloom into more mold.
And it moves so fast. I mean, here we are in the height of hurricane season. You know, the folks in Louisiana, New York, New Jersey, I mean, they're dealing with major flooding issues. And if you don't fix that immediately, which is hard to do, especially in today's climate, that mold starts to grow, you say, and as fast as 24 hours.
Yeah, so it can grow in as quickly as 24 to 48 hours. So if you don't remove the source of water quickly within that time period, and the building materials stay wet for longer than that period, mold has the ability to start to grow at that point.
And how does mold impact our health?
Well, that's just it. I mean, mold can impact our health in many different ways. One of the biggest complaints that I hear a lot about is brain fog or chronic fatigue syndrome, but also the common respiratory infection and symptoms that we typically associate with mold.
What about black mold?
So black mold is a toxigenic mold, meaning it's toxic, and it also has the ability to produce toxins separately and apart from that. So it can be very, very toxic to our bodies.
So what steps do we need to take to protect our homes?
Well, the first important thing is to stop the source of water or moisture that allowed the ability for mold to grow in the first place. If you can control the source of water or moisture, you control the mold's ability to grow. The second thing you want to do is make sure we have, especially in Florida, we want to have dehumidification systems that control the humidity. Because guess what? 60% humidity or higher, you're in that danger zone where mold can start to grow. So it's important that we're controlling the moisture, the water, etc., so we don't have mold blooms inside of our home.
Now, if you start smelling mold in your house, is it too late? Has it already spread rampantly?
Yeah, at that point, you know, that musty odor you're smelling is actually called microbial VOCs. So when you're experiencing that, that's that type of odor. That means it's already a problem inside your home, and you need to take action quickly.
So before the smell comes, because the smell is like it's really started to spread, but are there any ways to find it before it gets out of control?
Yeah, you can actually take control of this by doing air quality samples. And so you can hire someone, like in the state of Florida, for instance, there's a term called a licensed mold assessor. You can hire someone that'll come in and take laboratory samples to test your air quality and then make determinations based upon what those samples say if there is or is not a problem. So you can kind of catch it earlier on.
And is it true that you work with healthcare providers as well?
It is true, yeah. I work with doctors all over the country to help people, you know, kind of heal from mold exposures on the medical side of things.
That's interesting. So let's take a deeper dive into the medical side of things.
Yeah.
So when you work with people, you know, what happens? What do they go through to heal from? Do you start healing right away when you're no longer exposed, or do you have to, you know, go through some kind of treatment?
So a lot of the people that we experience across the country and helping with, they're dealing with predispositions. They may have Lyme disease or Hashimoto's, for example. They can't really heal from these things if they're living inside the problem. So our job is to go in, do lab testing, diagnose what's going on with the home, and give them a better environment to heal in. Then when they start treatment programs with their doctor, the treatment programs actually begin to work.
I get it. So there's no repairing your body until you repair the mold issue.
Yeah, it would be kind of like if your bathtub is overflowing with water. It'd be like trying to clean up the water with towels before shutting off the faucet.
And how common is mold growing in our homes?
Unfortunately, it's very common. Based upon the largest study ever done in 1994 by John Spengler, he estimates over 50% of the homes that he went inside and he surveyed had a history of water damage. And with water damage comes mold, of course.
All right, Michael, well, this has been incredibly informative, especially now, with hurricane season. Your heart breaks when you see it happen to other states, and we certainly don't want it targeting us here in the Florida area, but something to be prepared for nonetheless. So thank you for joining us on Bloom today.
Thanks for having me.
And for more information, you can visit allamericanrestoration.com. We'll be back with more Bloom right after this.